Now, their activities have earned them worldwide fame, or in some quarters, notoriety. Members of the Ukrainian activist group Femen have made headlines by baring their breasts to protest against prostitution, exploitation and corruption. But their activities have also brought them an often violent backlash from the authorities. This evening, a film about them is being screened at the London Film Festival. We'll be discussing their tactics in a moment, but first our culture and digital editor, Paul Mason, reports.
This was Femen's highest profile protest, ambushing Russian President Vladimir Putin on a state visit to Germany. Founded in the Ukraine in 2008, they started out protesting against sex tourism, the church, international marriage agencies, in fact, all things sexist. They described their mission as fighting patriarchy in its three manifestations: sexual exploitation of women, dictatorship and religion. And since 2011, they've gone global, staging protests against sexual and political repression by stripping to their waists in carefully choreographed media stunts across the world. The concept is simple, harnessing the mass coverage generated by their nudity to gain attention for their message, and the message is simply painted onto their bodies. Supporters say they've pioneered a new feminism. Critics say they're turning themselves into pornography, and this controversy heightened when it emerged earlier this year that the group was, for a time, controlled by a man.
Well, joining me now here in the studio is one of the founding members of Femen, Sasha Shevchenko, and by the editorial director of the Sunday Times, Eleanor Mills. Sasha Shevchenko, can you explain why you do a topless protest? What's the point?
Maybe it would be funny, but why not? Why women's sexuality should belong to men? Why my body should belong to men's society? Why I cannot control my sexuality and my body? All women's problems are connected to women's body, to that fact that men are deciding to be naked in Western society or to be covered, for example, in Muslim society. And everywhere it is the same process, but like kind of different. And like, why not? This is the point. We transformed our body, transformed something that is working now against us, transformed into our weapon.
Eleanor Mills, do you buy that argument?
I'm afraid I don't. I mean, of course it will buy you masses of publicity, but whether it buys you the right kind of publicity for the arguments that you're trying to get across, to which I'm pretty sympathetic, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not convinced that it's really a feminist act to take your clothes off and flash your breasts in public. I mean, I think that probably gets you the wrong kind of publicity, and you have had problems, haven't you, with men kind of directing the group. It seems a little dubious about whether this was really kind of orchestrated by some kind of male Svengali.
I think it's not a problem because of the way of our protests. It was inner problem in our group with this man. But I want to say that
this is Victor, is it?
Yeah.
And he was a founder of the group, was he?
He was one of the men who were around when we found Femen.
Because what's suggested in the film is that he chose attractive women to take their clothes off, and he admits that his intentions were not entirely just about the protest.
Yeah, that was Ukrainian style of thinking, of his thinking, and our also. You
so
know?
were you being exploited?
We were like, as I told you, like Ukrainian women who were thinking that let's keep fighting, let's think about our goals and our results, and we don't care about something that is really important for some time. But you know, 2 years ago we completely changed, and the main thing that we don't care if you are beautiful or young or etc. Now, like, we are free from this man now, we are free from these stereotypes now.
Eleanor?
Well, I worry about the exploitation that there was there. I think that the idea that you do a protest which is about women's bodies and objectification by only showing very beautiful young Ukrainian blondes is definitely plays into a kind of male fantasy about what women's protests might look like.
I mean, do you think
I'm more convinced by it now.
I'm not
I understand
satisfied about my body or my color of hair or eyes. It's not a question that's
No,
but isn't the point that you may be attracting the wrong kind of attention? You know, people may be paying attention to you.
You know that women's questions, women's problems are so somewhere behind of our important things that we are talking about all day. So we need this attention, even such kind of attention, even attention from men who are kind of, we can call them bastards. And if we can attract attention with our good
we shouldn't
vibe. No,
really
why
use
not?
that kind of language on the programme. So I'm sorry if anyone's offended by that. Look, in terms of sort of the message, do you think, if you take away, if you like, the argument, if you like, does the message get obscured by the fact that it is topless women?
Well, I think they've
I mean, do you think people know what this group is about here?
No. I mean, certainly a kind of quick canvass around the newsroom where I work. I mean, there were quite a lot of wry smiles and, they're the lovely blondes who get their breasts out. I don't think they're particularly taking on board the message. Actually reading your information and looking at the film, I think actually what you're doing is rather remarkable, and I think it's impressive that they're speaking out against the patriarchy, which is obviously oppressive in Ukraine. I just don't think that that's the way to do it. I think that you're falling into a trap.
I disagree, because maybe you can have fun here in Europe, but for example, in Russia, in Belarus, in Ukraine, Secret Service of these countries, they beat us, they put guns and grenade in our office and blame us that we are terrorists. They put us in jail. So they completely understand that we are fighting for freedom. They read our messages when we say different words for Putin or for other presidents of dictatorial countries.
But do you think you're making a difference? Because Putin was sort of delighted by a topless protest.
That's not true.
Like Sylvia Berlusconi.
He didn't look very worried by it.
Okay, so he's a cool guy, I mean, he's KGB worker. He knows how to react. He was only one person who reacted from the very first moment when he saw me. He was the first. All these guards, they didn't see me, but he reacted, and he's a smart guy. He found a way how to react.
I think they're incredibly brave, and I think that their hearts are in the right place. But I think that the attention they're getting is probably not really for their cause. But I understand what they're trying to do. It's a bit like slut walk, or some kind of black Americans trying to reclaim some of that language. And yes, I wasn't going to go there. But so I understand what they're trying to do. They're trying to use the symbols of oppression to symbolise that they are trying to do something kind of dramatic to overturn that. I'm not convinced that it works.
And I want to say that we want to change this meaning of women's sexuality and naked women's body, because now we are talking about women's body as something that it's not good to use it like in this way.
We've got to leave it there.
I just think you may be
when we use women's body in art, we say that it's great because it's for people's education.
And on that note,
the same, I think, if women will use it for their causes in the actions.
Thank you very much indeed for coming in tonight, and thank you, Eleanor Mills, as well.